Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Christian Recorder Dialogues. As always, we invite you to put your name, district, church, whatever you want in the chat to let us know you're here. We are excited to continue our series of getting to know our new bishops, and we have with us the Right Reverend Jeffrey Bernard Cooper Sr., the presiding prelate of the 18th Episcopal District. Bishop Cooper, welcome to the Christian Recorder Dialogues. It is an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. I'm glad to be here, and I thank you for this opportunity, although I think and hope much of the church knows who I am.
And that's right. So let's get into that because, you are well known to the church. You served us ably as the general secretary, but, we've talked about this on and off for a couple of times. So let's talk about, how was the transition from being the general secretary to being a bishop, from being, on one side of the dais to literally on another side of the dais?
It's been interesting. You might remember when I was elected as a general officer, as a general secretary, you were elected and you immediately assumed your responsibilities. You went from being in the delegation to being in the secretary's chair. And you were responsible for the meeting, the general conference from that point forward. When I was elected as a bishop, the law had changed and the general secretary, in my instance, being elected bishop, remained in the chair as the general secretary and was responsible for the remainder of the general conference and the minutes and everything else. So that part was a little different, and we didn't really have a lot of rules and regulations that sort of told us what to do. But beyond that, I think the transition has been relatively smooth. I'm grateful to Bishop Francine Brookins, and I'm grateful to Supervisor Miriam Burnett, because they were very helpful in making the transition a very smooth one. I thank them for their service to the 18th District. It is clear that they were caring leaders who made a difference in the district, and the district is grateful for their service. And my philosophy has been to stop, look, and listen as we make this transition, to stop and look and listen to the people, see where they are, where they want to go, and how we can help get them to that particular space. And so I think the other thing that has been helpful to me, for me, has been to approach the district as I would have approached a new church as a pastor, with a pastor's heart, listening to people, trying to ascertain their needs, and how as the leader, the pastor, the bishop can help meet those needs.
I think it's important that you brought that up, because one of the things that I think we sometimes forget when we put clergy in these administrative roles, and the bishopric is as much an administrative role as it is an administrative role, and as also as pastoral parts as well, is that before you all were elected to these roles, you all were ordained itinerant elders, which means you pastored, which means you are clergy. And I think, and I know that's one thing that distinguished you in the general secretary's role. You and I were talking many times about, looking at things through a pastor's heart. So I'm glad to hear you say that. And just, one thing, talk about the transitions. I remember one of the more poignant moments of the general conference to me was when I saw Bishop Green literally take his cross and put it on you. I will always remember that. That was just like one of those wow moments. It really, was something to see that. And that's why the consecration is one of my favorite times. Consecrations and ordinations I always love, because I think that's when you really get to see God come into the church and the spirit, the holiness of the moment. So that was definitely one of the signature moments for me of the general conference. Now, you mentioned the 18th district and the listening, and you hit the ground running in the district. You literally hit the ground running because general conference was so late. And I know many of the bishops had to go immediately into conference. So, as you've worked in the 18th and seen the district, you've been on the ground for a few months, basically going into a little over 9 months now in the district. What are the pressing needs in the district, and how can the Connectional Church better mobilize resources to address those challenges?
Well, it is a challenge. The district, as many other districts in 14 through 20, we are under-resourced in a number of ways. We have infrastructure needs. We have spiritual needs, obviously. We have in our district over 34 primary and secondary schools, all of them in varying degrees of need, from infrastructure to materials, to just making the learning environment one that really is conducive to learning. We have the Delta Sigma Theta sorority that supports the orphanage in Eswatini, which is a bright sign in our district. But there are other areas, even churches that have infrastructure needs. We have a lot of unfinished projects. We have churches that are what they call everything but the roof. And so they're looking at the bishop to help complete their project by helping to complete the roof and the interior. So those are the pressing needs. But I think, what we're trying to dedicate resources and time and effort to would be the children, and trying to make sure that they have a bright future and that they are looking forward to what they can be and what they can become, and that they can become productive members of their community, either by trade or by college degree. And so we want to make this foundational portion, the primary and secondary portion of their education, as meaningful as we can by improving their infrastructure and their supply resources in the area. And this may be the point where I talk about Team 18.
Go ahead and talk about it. We're going to talk about it several times. So go ahead,
all right,
bring it up.
Very good. So we have developed what we call Team 18, which is dedicated to improving the infrastructure of the schools and the environment in which our children are learning. For example, in one area in Lutu, there is a school that only had one building. It was overcrowded. We could probably they were fitting into that one building what would be 2 to maybe 3 different classrooms of children. And then when we started classes for this current season, we got new students in addition to what we had, and that created an even harsher environment for learning, in my opinion. And so for that one area, we're going to build 3 schools and have an addition of a lunch area or a rec area as well. And that one school is going to be completely transformed into an environment that we would be more accustomed to, with indoor plumbing and all of the things that where you would be glad to send a child for the day for learning. And we've gotten help in that one particular project. I can tell you that the Reverend Dr. Slaughter and the St. James family of Newark, New Jersey, they have committed to fully fund that project. And so we are grateful to them. But we're looking for others to partner with us in Team 18. And there are others who have partnered and are part of the team. And I think you're going to show at some point, perhaps, the letter and the opportunities that connectional groups or churches can use to help with Team 18. This is an effort to improve the future of the district by improving the environment in which our youth can and will be educated in the 18th Episcopal District.
So, Bishop, I'm going to sit there for a second. So first, I believe we do have a letter for those of you who access this broadcast through the email that was sent out to the Connectional database. In that email is the information about Team 18. But for those who are just watching this online, we would encourage you to simply the Cash App link for the district we have, and I believe we can show that right now. The Cash App is $$ 18th AMEC right here for those of you who want to be a part of Team 18. And also, Bishop, if they want to reach out through email, those of whom may not see this broadcast from the email, but those of you who are watching this broadcast just happen to be coming by and are feel led to help the 18th District, how could they contact you for more information about Team 18?
I'll keep it very simple. They can contact me at REVJBC at AOL.com. I've had that for years, and that's it. That you can get me directly, and I will respond. No one reads that but me, so you'll know you're getting directly to me. Okay?
So you get the Bishop. So again, for those of you who got this broadcast from the AME Church email, you will have seen the email for Team 18. For those of you who are watching this, happen to be scrolling online, we thank you for being here with us today. We encourage you to donate via Cash App and also reach out to Bishop Cooper through RevJBC at AOL.com. We'll post that one more time at the end of the message, and so that you can be in contact with the 18th District.
And let me say why I think this is also important as a connectional issue. At the last general conference, the 18th District brought a bill to the general conference requesting financial support for the schools, for the primary and secondary schools of the 18th Episcopal District. The bill does have or did have financial implications, and the treasurer did allow it to go forward from the revisions committee, but it didn't get to the floor for any consideration or vote. The important thing about that bill is they were only asking the Connectional Church to give them $1,000 for help with the schools. They need much, much more. But we did not respond. We did not respond. You can say, well, it just didn't get to the floor. But we knew about it and we didn't respond. And so I think I have made this a cornerstone because responding now shows them that at least this bishop understands and wants to help. And hopefully we can bring the connection with us with financial support to make a big difference in this area. It is important that districts 14 through 18 feel that they really are part of the connection. And the fact that one for $1,000 and we didn't respond as a connection to that was unfortunate.
And I'll put on my general board member back when I was in the general board. And this has been something that has been a perennial issue for the 18th district in particular. And I have critiqued this, and I've said this as one who has looked at our budgetary process and what we give to, what we don't give to, what gets the spotlight and what doesn't. I remember years ago when Bishop Sarah Davis was bishop of the 16th. And I'm trying to remember, I think Bishop White at that time, before it was Bishop Sarah, it was the bishop of the 18th district, and they got together and we lobbied the general board to put in place funding for the schools to draw down in the 16th, the 18th, and the 20th, the three districts where we have secondary schools. That funding is still in the connectional budget. It's under community education for $10,000. I don't know what they cut it to now. And I know Bishop Brookins tried to get the money. She could never get access to those funds, but they're in the budget. And so I hope whoever's watching this, A, you give money to help support Team 18 because they need more than 1,000, but B, that you push the general board and the treasurer of the church and the Commission on Stats and Finance to do the right thing by these districts because the money's already in there. So Bishop, I'm glad you brought that up.
Sure.
Because that leads us to the next question that I have, which is, the role of the 18th district, the role of the AME Church in helping these places in social and economic development, because it's clear that we do a lot more than just take care of the people through the spiritual piece. So tell us about how the AME Church addresses systemic issues like poverty, healthcare, and social injustice, because I know we have a long legacy and role in doing this.
I guess we do it carefully depending on the country we're in. Some countries are not amenable to demonstrations that would champion social justice. And so the church is limited in its ability to champion that without getting into trouble. But I do believe that in the 18th, the work of bishops before me have been productive in putting in place programs that the district will begin to benefit from. I think the recent renovation of the FC James Center in Lutu is a good example. Bishop Brookins has now put the district in a position where that center can be rented out as office space. It can be rented out. The main hall can be rented out for large events. And that becomes a source of income and revenue for the district and for the ongoing support of the James Center. So that is a brand new opportunity that she left to me. I thank her again for that. And we're trying to get that going in the proper direction to yield sufficient funding. There is another opportunity that I think was in its original state put in place by Bishop White when he was the bishop of the district. It's called Bishop's Place, and it's I think the plaque at the entrance does indicate Bishop White as the founder. So that is another economic opportunity that is presenting itself for the district that will generate some funding that we hope we can help. One of the major problems we have in the district is the support of the clergy in terms of their salaries or their packages, or however you want to refer to it. They do depend on stipends that the bishop's office is able to give to them as they attempt to do their ministry. So these programs, we hope, or these economic opportunities will help us in helping our pastors in what they're doing to compensate them better for what they're doing in terms of ministry.
One of the things that's impressed me about the 18th is, how much we've been able to do in that district and how well regarded the church is in the district. I mean, I know we talked about, whether it's in when the AME Church shows up in a place, when the AME Church shows up in a place, people know we're there. And I think it's a testament to the people who've gone before you and the work that you are already doing to show that we have the Sasula Sanda Vashti village, that that take care of the AIDS orphans, that we have the schools the schools, that we are an integral part of the primary school system in several countries through our schools, that we have Bishop's Place. That is, I remember when it was inaugurated, it was a big deal because that is prime property in the center of Lesotho's capital that we own, that we flipped into condos. I mean, and even, in Mozambique, where our numbers aren't as large, we've still, though, been able to have an impact through the Mozambique House and Churches. So I think, at the 18th, we speak up well in that district. So yes, go ahead, Bishop.
And I really want to sing the praises of the orphanage. That is a 22-year-old project. That is still going strong. I don't know that the church, this is a very positive, that the church lift better. Bishop Vasti, as when she was bishop there, it started. The Deltas have been supportive of that every year since. Bishop Vasti herself is personally supportive financially of the orphanage. It produces good, solid children who go on. They can only stay there till they're 18, and then they're ready to go to college or to a trade school. And what we're trying to do now is that as they reach of age and leave, we need a program in place that will help them financially to go to a local college or go to a local trade school, that they can then learn that trade or get that degree, and then go back to their communities and be productive citizens. So that is the other part of Team 18, is to put in place sort of a scholarship fund that resources the children who are part of the orphanage.
I want to sit with Lesotho for a second, because I remember one of the first things that you did as bishop was to meet the King of Lesotho in South Carolina when he was coming for the UN General Assembly heads of opening. And you made it a point to go to South Carolina to thank the AME Church for support and to recognize the tie that was between his father and Bishop James. Would you mind sharing a bit more about, this special, unique relationship that we have with Lesotho? And we all know where Lesotho is, by the way, for those who may be listening from somewhere else, about the AME Church, because I know that's a particularly special relationship.
Well, yeah, it is. And the King is a very gracious gentleman. He came to South Carolina in terms of his appreciation for the work that had been done by Bishop Brookins on the F.C. James Center. If you go to Lesotho, the center the James Center is literally in the center of town, and you can see it from almost any angle that you're traveling. And for it to have been restored to its former glory, and you can see it, and the AME brand is prominently displayed. And so the King was very, very appreciative to Bishop Brookins and to the 7th District, and at the time, Bishop Green, who was very generous with funds to help with the renovation of the center. And so he traveled he was at the UN for meetings, but wanted to be in South Carolina to express thanks and appreciation to the 7th District. And so I met him first on U.S. soil and began to learn of his affinity for and love of the AME Church. And for a minute, I thought, well, he might be AME. And so he said, no, I'm not AME, but I was brought up AME. My father was very much in the AME Church. He was working with it. So he felt like he grew up in the AME Church, although he's Catholic now. And then he said, when you come to the to your work when you're on the ground, please let him know that he would have us come to the palace. And he did. And we are looking for ways in which we can work together for the good, not only of the AME Church in Lesotho, but what can the church do for him and in his reign as king. It was a unique and opportunity for us to meet him and to get to know him. And we are looking forward to working with him on some projects together.
Wow. So the 18th district, just for those who are like, okay, these numbers past 13, where are we? What are we doing? So it's correct me if I'm wrong. It's South, what we call it, South Central Africa or Southeastern Africa, right. And we've got Eswatini, Lesotho, Botswana, Mozambique, and half of Mozambique, and those are the four countries that have the 18th.
Yeah, and Eswatini, as you know, it was at one time was Swaziland, but the name was changed. Yeah.
Okay. So these are smaller countries with high levels of poverty. Swaziland has one of the highest HIV/AIDS rates in the world, and they're prone to natural disasters. Mozambique gets its fair share of typhoons. Botswana just got a typhoon, flooding. So these are areas that have the typical issues of that region in terms of as their economies and their people are dealing with these issues of the region.
And it is also, unfortunately, number one in suicide rate.
Yes, Lesotho is number one in suicide rates. Yeah.
And that is why I think it's important to gender and foster as much hope in people as possible through the primary and secondary schools, and for their parents to see that there is a brighter day, there is hope, and that they should not submit to dismal thinking that may lead to suicide.
So let's talk about the opportunities for the AME Church, because we have a strong foundation, a strong legacy that is there. So in your tenure in this district, what are some of the opportunities that you see for the church to grow and thrive in the region?
I think as we make these improvements, these infrastructure kinds of improvements, it will generate renewed interest. I look at it in terms of the connectional theme that we've had, which is about revival. And I think as we attempt to make these improvements in the district, revive the AME brand, revive our interest in the people, it will make a difference. What I truly believe makes a difference in districts 14 through 18 is when they feel that they are truly a part of the connection and not an afterthought. And so our efforts are to help foster that kind of attitude, that they know that they are truly connected and a part of the larger connection. I think that is part of the job of the bishop of the district. And so we're dedicated to that through the bishop's work, through the work of the supervisor, Cooper, and the Missionary Society and the young people. We want everybody to feel that they are active and a part of the larger AME church. Africa is a place of enormous potential and growth for the African Methodist Episcopal Church. So we must commit self and resources to the region that will lift the people beyond where they are, that they might be more in the connection and in the communities in which they live.
Wow. Wow. And I'm glad for you to say that, because sometimes I think we're like, and I know, and I've had to tell people this, when we get, we have disaster, we need this. And so sometimes people see, the emails or the things we put out, the connection saying, we need your help in this crisis, understanding that crises, we aren't jumping from crisis to crisis to crisis. There is a lot of important work that can be done to uplift the people, and people are looking for the AME Church, looking to the AME Church to do something, and there are wonderful ways to do that. So in your walk, in these, going on 9, I guess, how many months has it been? Jesus, has it been 8, 9, 10 months? In your, you've already been through one conference series. Have you gone into mid-year or are about to go into mid-year?
Going into mid-year next month.
Going into mid-year. So in this time, and given your experience as a pastor, experience as a general officer, now as a bishop, I know various moments you've had your walk as your ministry has evolved. So can you share a story from your time now as Bishop of the 18th that reflects on the transformative power of ministry and on both the community and your own spiritual growth? Because, this is a different space for you. It's almost like you're back to square one. We talked about this, doing stuff new. So tell us about this moment.
Well, I'll give you 2 stories, I guess, from the same conference, the North Lesotho Annual Conference. These are small things, perhaps to me or you, but at the time, they were big things to the people in that particular annual conference. For example, one gentleman who was a part of the Board of Examiners, student in the Board of Examiners, who had come before me to be advanced. And my question to him was about theological education, which is very important and needed in the district. And I wanted to know if he was willing to be a part of Zoom to be able to get to some of the classes being offered by Turner Seminary, as well as maybe classes by Payne that he could access, and perhaps the district could help. And he said, "Well, Bishop, I don't have any way to access it." And I said, "Well, what do you mean you don't have any way?" He said, "Well, I don't have a computer. I don't have a laptop. I don't have a pad. I don't have a phone. So I don't have any electrical device like that." And I said, "But so if you had one of those, you would be able to get the classes and you would be able to start some of this training." He said, "Yes." So you're saying to me, if I give you a telephone, if I buy you a phone, you'll be able to do that? He said, "Yes." So I said to him point blank, "I am going to buy you a phone." And the place just erupted in applause. And I mean, it was absolutely a simple thing as giving him a phone. And we did. We purchased the phone. In that same conference, as they were making reports from various churches, and the delegate would have an opportunity to speak, there was a very elderly person, he's up in age, and but he was there as the delegate. And I said, "Do you have anything you wish to say?" Well, he did the usual thing of saying, complimenting the pastor, "Please send the pastor back." And then he said, "Now, Bishop, I've been here around here a long time, and I have never seen anybody from my church receive any kind of scholarship from the AME Church. And before I die, I just want to see somebody have a scholarship at my church." And he explained, and as you may know, but over there, even some primary and secondary schools, you have to pay. You're actually having to pay to go. And they told me how much was being requested. And I said, I am giving you this night a scholarship for at least one of those students. And he was elderly, but he did a dance, and the place went up again because, again, for me, that may seem small, but for them, it was a point of recognition that somebody was listening to them, and somebody was caring about what they had to say, and somebody was responding. Not, I'll get back to you, but responding at that minute that I'm going to do what you're asking me to do. So those are two things that have happened in the district. And that, I guess, sort of reminded me of what it's like to be a pastor, where you can actually help and see and feel the help that you're giving to somebody. That you're making a difference in some family and in somebody's life. And so that was important for me. Again, this was the first conference. And so it gave me some uplift spiritually, going from there to the rest of the conferences. And so those were good moments for me at the conference.
And I guess, again, reflecting back on, what we ask bishops to do, I mean, your work is administrative. You go from place to place sharing reports. You may never bear witness to, it's like any public official, you may never see the change that you put in place. Like the Bible says, you may plant the seeds and water it. Someone else may get the harvest. And, reports in and out, doing the meetings, the administrative work of the church. But I know those moments of actually being able to see the impact, see the smile. And, I hear this a lot from, friends of mine who have become bishops or have gone into administrative roles. And it's like, I loved being this pastor, or I loved being a school teacher. Now I'm a dean and I don't get to teach the kids anymore. But how do I, get the energy to do what I do? Because, I'm, in my heart, I'm a teacher. I'm not, this administrator, but I want to serve at this level. So I'm glad you were able to have that and take that moment to give you energy through, because through the season of the conference, because, again, this is not an easy time for the 18th district. It's not an easy time for 14 through 20, especially in this geopolitical environment. So, Bishop, I'm glad that you're here and the 18th hears us listening to it. Not just today, but, hopefully they hear us listening. So again, I just want to ask you, how can members of the Connectional Church support the 18th? You talked about Team 18 and other ways, but mission trips, sponsorships. What are the variety of ways that members of the Connectional Church can support the work of the 18th, with Team 18 being the primary vehicle that we are advocating for?
I think participating in some of the ministry efforts. For example, the 18th district is doing 40 days of Lenten prayer calls. It's hard to know how many people are getting on those calls from the U.S., but it would be good to know that in addition to the 18th, that others were also getting in on those calls. I think the way for the Connectional Church to help the 18th is to embrace the 18th, not as different, but as just another part of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. I don't want them to see them as different. I don't want them to look at us in the 18th as different, but we're all a part of the same, and we're all better together than we are separate and apart. And so, in terms of mission trips, I think those would be good, as long as we understand they're not vacation trips to come and see how I mean, really to come and see how we live, but to come with a purpose, that we're going to accomplish this goal while we're there, or we're going to help this church finish this project while we're there, or we're going to set up this food pantry and try to help the church maintain that pantry. Something that is concrete and bona fide, that will be more than a one and done sort of thing, but something that will be ongoing and beneficial and meaningful to that community in which the mission trip is going to take place. And we can provide opportunities or suggestions to groups that might want to make those kinds of trips. You know, and one thing I'd like to see, I'm not sure this is possible, but I'd like to see from the seminaries, the ones we have, Turner, Payne, Dickerson Green, we need to have some of those students who are able to come to districts 14 through 20 as an internship for the summer, where they are paired with pastors, that they can learn from the pastor, but also help to teach some of what they have been learning in seminary to the congregation and to the pastor, in terms of growth, church growth, how to do church growth, and how to energize Bible study and things that are happening within that local church. So I think, and it would broaden the horizon of the student as well, to see the whole church and not go to seminary and graduate and you've only seen one particular side of the church.
I definitely think that that's something that I'm sure the deans or the presidents of those seminaries will be interested in trying to work out. But I'm glad I wanted to ask that question, because I know we hear again, you know, we need the US dollar goes a long way here. We have resources, but we need people to understand that presence is important. Relationship is important. And that, you know, you can have a relationship by just showing up on the Lent call that the General Secretary sends out every week to let people know that the 18th, your announcement goes in like all the other announcements. So I'm going to show up on the Lent call one of these Sundays. I don't know which one, but I'll show up on one of those calls, you know. It's important that we understand, you know, relationships. And like I have friends, you know, like, and that, for example, in the 20th district, the 10th, there's a group from Texas that has been going to Kenya for years, started with Dr. Campbell, and this group keeps going and going and going. They build a relationship. I have a special relationship with the 16th district. So, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who are looking for someone to link with, and there's no better district than the 18th district to help find your space to find this partnership. And I know someone watching this interview will be led to look to work with the 18th in a special way. So, Bishop, before we wrap, I've been asking each one of our new leaders. Well, you're not a new leader; you're a renewed leader. And so I want to ask you, sir, what is your favorite book? What is your favorite book?
There's a little book that I was introduced to by my wife. Feels like eons ago. It's a book by Richard Foster entitled Celebration of Discipline. And it's a short read. It's not a long read. When I read it the first time as a pastor, I made it a series of Bible study. We did Celebration of Discipline as Bible study for about 12 weeks. And it talks about the spiritual disciplines, how to improve on what you think you have, and how to be transformed by the practice of the spiritual disciplines. And I found that to be a transformative book. It is what I would consider a once a year read. You should read the book once every year, because you cannot master the disciplines in 1 year or with one reading. It is an ongoing pursuit. It is an ongoing project, I think, for everybody. One of the disciplines is simplicity. And I may have said this to you in our private conversations. I try to live my life by simple rules. And this is from this book. It's from the book that I say that, and I picked that up, and I've tried to live that way by simple rules. So people will say, Cooper he's just a cool guy. He's just chill. He's just cool. That is a deliberate practice of trying to live by the spiritual discipline of simplicity. Just keep it simple, and declutter your life from everything that would aggravate you or get you bent out of shape, because almost anything can do that. But it's a good book. I recommend it. It's a really good book for the Connection to read now, with our theme about revival for the next for this quadrennium. And if we could work on our spiritual disciplines, I mean, fasting, praying, simplicity, solitude, all of those things, service, I think we would find ourselves in a different place spiritually. But again, it's a once a year. Everybody should read it once a year. Keeps you going in the right direction.
Well, thank you, Bishop. I have a feeling you're going to see that book pop up at some sort of connectional Bible study, or some sort of, I know the Lair organization is looking for stuff to do for the next 4 years. So Pat Wright, if you're listening, that might be a book we might want to add into the curriculum. Well,
and Bishop, there is a Bible study guide that now has been developed for that book. So it's almost ready made for you.
And I know that Dr. Beelan, our publisher, is big on spiritual disciplines as well. So I'm sure that, and he's probably been incorporating this book into his work. I just didn't realize. But you know, Bishop, I thank you for sharing that, and I'm definitely going to look into the book. And I wanted to finally wrap up. And again, I would like our tech team to show again one more time the Cash App for the 18th district. That's $18THAMEC. I am one of the partners in 18th. You know, I give a portion of my tithe every year I rotate a month 4 to the 20. So this year I started with Bishop Cooper for, you know, he just happened to be my colleague at one point, so I figured to start with home. So I wanted to do that. But for those of you who are interested, please do that. Also, we have the email of Bishop Cooper, so that you can email him. Again, those of you who are watching this that may not have gotten this email that you can go email Bishop Cooper directly for information on Team 18 and the work they're doing with the schools. Bishop, so any final words before we end up at this broadcast?
Yeah, I want to again express to you my profound thanks for this opportunity. I want to thank you for your patience in getting me to sit down to do it. And I want
That's
to
a spiritual discipline, by the way. Actually, one of the spiritual disciplines.
I understand. You did well. You did well. And I want to thank you for your friendship. We had and have mutual friends, but I thank you for the friendship you have shown to me while we were colleagues, which has grown, I think, closer over time. And that I expect and want to continue. I don't want differences in responsibilities to change our friendship. So I thank you for that. And people should know that we talk about relationships in the AME Church and friendships in the AME Church. That is a real thing. And I am grateful for our friendship.
Well, that's what they say. And again, I do consider you a bishop and a friend. So thank you, sir. And on that note, we thank you for this interview, and we will see you all again on the Christian Recorder Dialogues next time.